Hello, 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 everybody. You are listening to QD's Talk Time. And my name is LaQuisha Blair, but you can call me Q. All of my friends call me Q. I hope you are one of my friends. So let's go ahead and just jump right into things today. We are going to talk about menopause. Yes, that's right, menopause. Now, some of you may not know what menopause is. Some of you may have heard the phrase or the saying and thought, okay, I don't know what it is, or yeah, my mom talked about that, or my grandma talked about that, and she got hot flashes, and she talked about hot flashes a lot, which that's part of it. Or sometimes, men, you may have heard the phrase, and the first thing that comes to mind is hot flashes, or, oh, she's no longer having a cycle anymore. So that could be what you're thinking of. Well, it's way more than that. And we're going to just dive right into it today and talk about all the things that go along with menopause. So now let me shoot out my disclaimer here, okay? I am not a doctor. I am not a professional medical personality of any kind. This is just information that I have gathered from several different sites, several different informative sites. You can look this stuff up on places like WebMD. You can Google it, but I've just gathered the information and we're going to talk about it from my perspective, just my personal experience, but we're also going to educate you and let you know what we found on the internet, okay? So, here's the thing. I came about this and let me just advise you, every time I get on here, it's like quiet all day long. And then as soon as I get online, things start to happen around me, like trucks and horns and trains, and so it's never really quiet where I am. So if you hear background noise, just know I'm a live person, I'm a real person, and I deal with everyday things just like you guys. So we'll just get through it, okay? But anyway, getting back to menopause. So let me tell you, here's what happened to me. I started having some issues. And now most women that go through this period called menopause, it happens to them naturally. There are some women that are put into it by default. And what do I mean by that? Well, here's what happened to me. I suffered from really heavy menstrual cycles. So my monthly menstrual cycle was extremely heavy, and it lasted forever, it seemed. So what would happen is I would come on my menstrual cycle and I would stay on for 2-3 weeks at a time, straight. No breaks in between, a full 2 or 3 weeks straight. And I would go so heavy and I would pass huge blood clots. And it scared me to the point where I remember one incident in particular. I was at work. Talk about being embarrassed. I was at work and I was on, but I had just come on and I didn't think anything of it. But I wasn't feeling all that well, and I forced myself to be at work that day. I probably should have stayed home, but you know how we do. We want to go in, we want to, get our work done, and that was my deal at the time. I hardly missed work at all. Even if I was sick, I would try to go because I just felt like they couldn't do anything without me. We want to be wanted and needed and indispensable when it comes to our jobs. And that's how I felt. So I went to work that day, and I wore a dark skirt and some boots and a top. And I looked really cute, and, I wore a skirt because it was easier for me. If I had to go to the bathroom and change, I didn't want to have to deal with pants. Plus, I didn't want to have an accident where it came through my pants. When you wear pants, because you have to put them on one leg at a time, and they're really close to your crotch where you're going to have your pad. I couldn't even wear a tampon. When you're on your menstrual cycle, you can either wear a tampon or a pad. I couldn't wear a tampon. That just wasn't going to work. I had to wear a pad, and I had to wear something that was going to hold a lot of fluid. So I wore a dress that day. I get to work. Everything's going natural, but then I have a cramp in my tummy, in my stomach, that just felt like I don't even know how to describe it. It was the most horrendous cramp. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there, and I don't know, ladies, you know that feeling that you get when you cough, and and you're on your monthly period, and all of a sudden you have this whoosh of flow. I don't want to get too graphic, but you have this whoosh of flow when you cough, okay? So I'm sitting there, and I had a cramp, but it wasn't I didn't have to cough or anything. It was just a cramp, and it was in my pelvic. And then all of a sudden, there was this, I immediately had to stand up, and I was trying to get to the bathroom, but I didn't make it. And luckily, where I was sitting was in this private room, and there were women. There were, 4 women that were around me. And they looked at me, and they was like, "Oh my gosh, you're turning white. What's wrong?" I'd lost all the color in my skin. And if you see my picture on my podcast, I'm not white. So for me to have lost color, that meant something. So I stood up, and then all of a sudden I just had this flow of blood running down my legs, and it was just pooling onto the floor. And I don't know, it looked like something out of a horror movie, And so they rushed me out the door. I was like, I just need to get home. And, they were going to call the ambulance. And I'm like, no, I just need to get home, because I still felt I could function. So I get home, and I clean myself up, of course. And of course, I couldn't go back to work, for a few days, because it was just that heavy. And this was a natural flow for me. Okay. So, which was unnatural, it was a normal flow for me, because I had been going through this for quite a period of time. And when I say quite a period of time, I mean 3 or 4 years. It just, over a period of time, it got heavier and heavier and heavier until it got to this point. And then once it was over, once my cycle ended, which I would go, like I said, 3 weeks at a time, I would be off for maybe 4 or 5 days, sometimes a week, sometimes even 2 weeks, but then I'd come right back on again. And that's the part that wasn't normal. I started tracking it. I had been tracking it for like, I don't know, probably about 9 months now. And in the 9 months time, I maybe was off a total of maybe 2.5 months, 9 weeks, maybe in that 9-month period. So I went to the doctor. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd gone to the doctor before and I was told, oh, this is normal. You know, sometimes this happens. Just keep track of it. And as long as I wasn't losing, like, they checked my iron, they checked my potassium, they checked, you know, all of my blood levels, and they all seemed to be normal at that time. So they didn't do anything. There was not anything that they were willing to do. There was some things that they could have done, but they weren't willing to do them because I wasn't in a position that they called necessary. They made it necessary for me to have surgery or anything like that. So they didn't do anything. So anyway, going forward, I went to the doctor and she said, we'll keep an eye on it. This is, it doesn't look good, but we'll keep an eye on it. Well, that went on for a few more years. Well, fast forward, and it was about 2010. I would say August of 2010. No, 2011, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly when. But I remember we were living in an apartment, my daughter and I woke up that morning feeling really weird. And this was like many years past the whole the whole incident that happened at work. And so I decided that I was going to go and lay down and get some rest. So I did. And then after I laid down to get some rest, when I woke up that next morning, I got up and I was like, I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. So when I woke up, I went to stand up and I fell. Now, I wasn't on my menstrual at all, but I fell. I passed out, and my daughter happened to be there, thank goodness, because when I passed out, she brought me to, and she's like, Mom, are you okay? Is everything right? Okay. And I'm like, no, something's not right. I don't feel right. And so we went to the emergency room. Well, when I got to the emergency room, they were like, we're going to run some tests on you and see what's going on. And when they did, that's when they found something wrong. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I found out later on. All I knew is they weren't going to let me go home. They kept me, they rushed me upstairs, and they said, we're going to have to do surgery because I was bleeding internally. And I had, they were going to do what they called an emergency hysterectomy. Now, a hysterectomy, you can get a partial or a complete hysterectomy. And that's where a partial hysterectomy is where they just tie off your fallopian tubes. Okay. They don't take anything out. A complete hysterectomy is where they remove your ovaries and they take everything out. They take your ovaries and your fallopian tubes. So you don't have a cycle, but you can't have children anymore. Now, of course, all my children were grown, so it didn't matter to me. In fact, I was really happy to hear that. That way I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. So, but they took me into surgery. I did not know I was on death's door. I really was. It was to a point where they told my daughter to call in the family because I had lost 9 pints of blood. Now, I don't know if you know how much blood the human body has, but you only have 9 pints, and I had lost all the blood in my body. They could not do surgery because I didn't have enough blood in my body to do it. So they gave me, this is what I was told by my doctor. They gave me 5 pints of blood before I even went into surgery. And then while I was in surgery, they gave me another 4 pints of blood. And that, brought my levels back up to a point where they could work with me. Now, I don't know what happened. My doctor wouldn't tell me for a few days after I came out of surgery, but my children were all standing around me, and my mom and my sisters, and I'm like, kind of wondering what's going on. And that's when my daughter told me a little bit of what happened, but she wasn't allowed to tell me any more because of the state I was in. I was still recovering. And they didn't want me to have a relapse or they didn't want me to have not a relapse, but a panic attack or a heart attack or anything like that after learning the truth, because sometimes that can jar a person's mental stability and cause havoc on their body, especially after something serious like that. So, all of that being said, I went through a lot dealing with menopause, and that's the biggest portion of it, but it's only a portion. So let me tell you what menopause is. And ladies, if you're listening out there, some of you may have even gone through what I've gone through. I know a friend of mine, she had to have an emergency hysterectomy. And what happens when you have an emergency hysterectomy is it automatically throws your body into menopause. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you have to have that done, it throws your body into menopause. It's not a natural occurrence like everybody else, because it's brought on by the fact that you no longer have the ability to produce the estrogen or the progesterone in your body that helps with the reproductive of hormones that regulate your body and regulate your menstrual cycle. So just to go over with you what menopause is. Menopause is a natural occurrence. It's a natural decrease of the production of estrogen and progesterone. This is what gives you the reproductive hormones and regulates your menstrual cycle. Now, what I had was a complete hysterectomy procedure when both the uterus and the ovaries are removed. And that is what caused me to have menopause. Now, this is done after, of course, all these other problems that you may have. Menopause can be caused due to chemotherapy. It could also be due to radiation therapy, or it can happen in cancer patients. Now, premature menopause is also what I had because it was induced by the surgery that I had. But premature menopause, or primary ovarian insufficiency, this is when the ovaries fail to produce normal levels of reproductive hormones. So, I don't know, sometimes you have female athletes, because of their athletic ability, because they're training so, because they're exercising so, it can cause them not to have a monthly cycle. This is a little different. This is different. What I'm talking about is someone who is dealing with some of the issues that I mentioned. They're having problems with bleeding heavy, where they have to go and have surgery like I did, or they are coming into that age where they're 40 or 50 years old, and that's when it starts normally, or they are a patient that is going through chemotherapy or radiation therapy, or even maybe a cancer patient. All of these things can cause menopause onset. Now, I say that, and you're like, okay, so now we know what it is. What are the symptoms? Well, here's the fun part. All the fun stuff you get to look forward to that I still deal with, okay? So I'm 55 years old, by the way. And I've been dealing with this since I was, 40? I think I was 42 when I had to have the surgery. So I was right in the age range. Maybe I was a little younger than that, now that I think about it. No, I think that's right. I was about 42. So I'm right in that age range when it would start anyway. So I guess that kind of worked out for me because that was about the time I probably would have started had I not had the surgery. So here are some of the symptoms. Some symptoms vary by person. Not everybody has these symptoms. You may have some and not others. And some of the most common symptoms when you're nearing menopause, you may have irregular menstrual cycles, which is what I had. My menstrual cycles, like a lot of people, they have them on this day every month, and you can set your clock by it. You can set your calendar. It's going to start on the 3rd and it's going to end on the 7th, or sometimes there's only 3 days. Some people have a full menstrual cycle in 3 days, and some people have it in 7. Some people have it in 5. So it's between 3 to 9 days is a normal menstrual cycle. And some people, you can set your calendar every month like clockwork. It's going to happen. I was not one of those people. Mine didn't happen like that. So you may have heavy bleeding might occur for a day or two. Well, mine occurred a lot more than just a day or two. Mine was weeks at a time. So some people, it's like really heavy here and there. In my case, I was heavy all the time. Excessive sweating, night sweats. I still have those. Going through menopause, remember in the beginning I was talking about your grandmother, your mom used to talk about how hot she would get. She would be super, super hot one minute and freezing cold the next. That's part of menopause. Those are some of the symptoms. I am, it's so funny. I lay in my bed at night and I am burning up one minute to the point where it feels like my skin is on fire if you were to touch me. And then the next few minutes, I'm freezing cold. Here's one that not everybody talks about. Vaginal dryness, itching, pain during sexual intercourse. Now, I have vaginal dryness. I don't have the pain. I don't have the itching. I don't have those issues. But some people do. That's part of it. Not that they have any kind of disease or anything like that. It's just they may be going through menopause. If you see somebody I know I'm getting silly, but if you see somebody and they're kind of scratching all the time, that may not be a cooties. It may not be a disease. It may be that they're just in the throes of menopause and, have an itch. I don't know. I've not ever dealt with that part. Frequent urinations and frequent urinary tract infections. Now, I did find that at first I had to go to the bathroom a lot. I was like a pregnant person. When you see somebody pregnant and they have to go to the bathroom a lot because the baby is sitting on their bladder, the baby's resting on their bladder. Well, I had to go a lot. That's how I felt. Even though there was nothing in there. I didn't have a baby or anything. It was just part of the menopause. Now, I've not had a lot of urinary tract infections though. But that is also part of it. Mood swings. I'm a happy person, so I didn't have a whole lot of this. Now when I first started, I was a little down, just knowing the fact that I was never going to have children again. That made me a little down because I absolutely love children. I love my kids and my grandbabies and all of that. And I knew, of course, on the one hand, I was glad because I knew I wasn't going to have to worry about that anymore. That I wasn't going to have children anymore. But on the other hand, I missed it. I missed that feeling, kind of like women who after they give birth and, you get used to having your hand on your tummy like that. You know how you used to hold your hand across your tummy and it was like a resting point? Well, you get that again when you go through menopause. You have this slight depression, and it's not to that extreme, but it's a matter of not being able to reproduce. God blessed us to be able to reproduce. Unlike men, they carry the seed, but we carry the baby. And so you miss that. But that was the only part of the mood swing that I had. Now, some people go into a deep depression. Some people go into they don't want to do anything. It's like all of a sudden they're old and they don't want to go anywhere. Or don't want to do anything. I didn't have that issue. I'm just a happy person, period. Fatigue. I did have some tiredness, and I still do every once in a while. That's a hormonal issue. That's a lack of hormones. Weight gain. Yes. Uneven weight distribution. Yes. I have gone through that. I'm still dealing with that. But I'm learning how to adjust my diet, how to adjust my exercise so that I can maintain and not gain. And that's the key. When you're going through, you may have some of these issues. And you just have to figure out, and maybe you need to talk to your doctor about this, some things that will help you and some things that won't. Now, let me tell you, there are some natural hormones and there are some unnatural hormones, some synthetic hormones that your doctor may be able to prescribe. I am one of those people that could not take anything. I tried the pills that they gave me, the doctors gave me, that only worked, at first they gave me like 1 milliliter and or 1 milligram, 1 milligram of this one type of medicine. And it worked a little bit and then it stopped working. So they gave me 2 milligrams and it worked a little bit and it stopped working. They gave me 3 and it same thing. And so they took me off of that and they said, well, this isn't going to work for you. So we're going to give you some cream. You just put the cream on your wrist and, once a day. And, that should last you for 24 hours. And the next day you just put some more on. You do that every day. Well, that didn't work for me either. Then they said, well, we have a shot that will last for 30 days. You take this shot and you won't have any of the hot flashes and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And I took the shot and it sent me to the hospital. It caused my blood pressure to go through the roof. It almost gave me a stroke. And I was at work when it happened. They called the ambulance. They rushed me to the hospital and they said, what happened? What did you take? And I was like, my doctor gave me a shot this morning. They called my doctor to find out what kind of shot it was. And, my doctor talked to him and told him. And then they were like, they flushed my system with all kinds of fluids, gave me some saline to help flush me out. And I just cannot take those synthetic hormones. I've tried things like black cohosh, which is supposed to be a natural, hormone to replace what you've lost in your body, the progesterone and the estrogen. I've done the iCool that you get over the counter, all the stuff over the counter. I've tried it. I can't take it. Finally, I just decided I'm just going to have to deal with it. Sweet potatoes is a good a source of estrogen, and I like sweet potatoes, so I tried eating those. Let me tell you, you get tired of eating sweet potatoes. I boiled them, I baked them, I cut them up and fried them, I ate them raw. It just didn't work for me. I just decided, I still love sweet potatoes. I just can't eat them that much to get enough of that hormone in my body to help alleviate. So I just decided to deal with it. Now, what am I dealing with? The night sweats, the hot flashes. And the hot flashes never happen when you want them to. It's like they happen, but not when it's cold outside, when you need a hot flash. They happen when you're in a hurry, when your body gets stressed. When you stress out about stuff, you're trying to get something done at work. You get overwhelmed with something. That's when the hot flashes are going to come. So I have learned to keep myself calm so that I'm calm and relaxed. For the most part, there are some times when it hits me and I'm like, but I'm calm, I'm relaxed. It doesn't matter. The hot flashes are going to come. The fatigue has gotten better. I have, I take a multivitamin. I started taking vitamins and started, doing things to boost my energy, and it's working for me. Here's the gist of everything, okay? Menopause is not the end of the world for us ladies who have to deal with it. So it is an issue that you can learn to work around. It is an issue that, you're going to have to learn how to better take care of yourself as you get older. At the age of 55, I have learned to better take care of myself. Now, am I still dealing with weight gain and the hot flashes and some of the other symptoms, the fatigue? Yes, but it's nowhere near the point that it was, and I'm learning how to deal with it. I'm, the exercising more, the taking the vitamins, the eating the right foods. I have, sometimes I still binge on some of the junk foods like pizza and chicken wings. I had that the other day. I came home from work and my fiance goes, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yes, I'm starving," because I work a third shift. I'm still working. Okay. So I work a third shift and my fiance goes, "Are you hungry?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm starving." And he goes, "Pizza and chicken wings?" So yeah, we'll have pizza and chicken wings for breakfast. We are not the conventional couple, let me tell you. So we had pizza and chicken wings and it was delicious. I ate 2 pieces of pizza and I think I had 4 of those little nublets, the little flat pieces of chicken wings, or maybe 5. I think I had 5, to be honest. And it was so good. And of course, that's not every day, but you pig out sometimes, but you don't do it all the time. And there are some times where you don't want to eat at all. But you have to eat something, even if it's a little thing. You have to eat something just so you can put some nourishment in your body and give your body some energy to move on. So, all of that being said, all I'm saying is menopause is not the end of the world. You can live through it. You can get through it. I don't know how long it lasts. Everybody is different. I've been in the throes of it since I was 42. I'm 55 now, so you do the math. It's 13 years already. Sometimes I feel like I'm starting to come out of it, but who knows? Whenever God decides to give me a break, He's going to say, don't worry about it anymore. And He's going to take it away. And until He does, I'm just going to have to deal with it and work through it and make it a part of my life, because it already is. So here's what I will tell you. Go to your doctor. Get some help if you're dealing with this issue. There is some help out there. The hormones, the synthetic hormones may work for you. They just didn't work for me. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical advisor. I'm just somebody who wanted to share a little bit of information of what I know with some really great people out there. And guys, if you are listening to this, let me tell you, your woman, your girlfriend, your wife, your mom, whoever it may be, give them some peace, give them some respect, give them some time, give them some attention, give them some love, because they're going to need it. They are going to need it. This is one of those issues that, you can't help. It's not something you can stop. So show them some love, give them some hugs, have some patience with them. They're going to need your patience most of all. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you've laughed with me. I hope I've entertained you. I wish you a most wonderful day. Please know that God loves you and I love you more. This is LaQuisha Blair with QD's Talk Time. But you know what I say, you can call me Q. Thank you, God bless, and have a great night. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.